Welcome to the Miracles and Millions Show. This is your go-to show for living a life of miracles, where we're taking the limits off what you believe is possible. It's time to play big, be bold, and shine bright. I'm your host, Michelle Humphrey. Lisa Cherney has been advising millionaire entrepreneurs for almost 20 years, and she's the host of the groundbreaking confession-based GFR, Get Effin' Real podcast. In 2014, after 15 years in business, Lisa got effin' real and dismantled her successful seven-figure business. And that's when the miracles started. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now she helps soulful entrepreneurs GFR so that they can get out of their own way and help more people to make more money. I'm excited to introduce Lisa to you. There's so many key points about the benefits of GFR in your life. And without any further ado, here's our interview. So you heard her amazing bio, and I gotta say, I love Lisa. I've met her multiple times at different events when we were doing live events before our whole unique time in history, and she's just an amazing woman. She has a great energy about her, and guys, here's what you're gonna love. She speaks miracles. That's what I think really created a connection between us. So I want to hear, how you went from like really doing well, and this is so typical, like making millions, connecting with, millionaires, living, if you will, that scene. But then I want to hear that epiphany moment that happened inside of you that woke you up to realize, wait, there's got to be more. Like, what was going on inside of you that allowed you to literally, close doors and walk away from what you had been doing for years?
It feels like there was a moment. I know it was a GFR moment,
Yes.
where I was teaching people how to create a business and a life that they love. I was doing an event called 6 Figures on Your Terms, Full-Time Prosperity, Part-Time Hours. I was living that lifestyle. I believed in it. And, 2 years in, got the t-shirt of the 7-figure business and was looking around and was like, this does not feel good. I am not having fun like I want to. This feels heavy. And I was super smart and had all these great people around me. So I knew what I needed to do to like make it bigger, more butts and seats and do the launches. And none of that, Michelle, felt good. I couldn't do it. I couldn't fake it. I couldn't pretend that I liked it. I talk about how I have a low tolerance for not feeling good, which I think has been like an asset to me for my whole life. I can't do it. And so I needed a GFR and say, this isn't feeling good. And I'll never forget the day that I was at one of my retreats and people flew in from all over the world. And I said, this is going to be the last retreat, this is not working for me anymore. And I was so terrified at their response. And that was like the first miracle, was that they were like, oh my God, we love you even more. Thank you for being so authentic. You give us permission to stop the things that we don't want to do. And, and it took like a year and a half to unravel the whole thing and finally like feel completion. But the decision was when the miracles started happening, was when I just said, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I just need to admit and confess, that this isn't feeling good. And that was the beginning of a whole new chapter for me.
I love it. And let's really emphasize what you said. I've never quite heard it phrased that way, but I'm so on board. I have a low tolerance for, frustrations and annoyances and doing things that don't feel good because, right? Let's dive into that a little bit more, because my experience, and I'd love to hear your point of view on that, is if we are drowning out our internal guidance system that really only works through our feeling world, right? And we're overriding it by like need tos and have tos and shoulds and supposed tos is what I call it, right? Like we can't hear that guidance on the inside. We've got to allow that, okay, what is showing up? And like, there's got to be another way. Like, there's got to be another solution. So how did you discern to like, stop pushing it aside and really listen?
We're so aligned on this, and it makes me so excited. And one of my GFR commandments, which I'll talk about where they all came from, is let go of what doesn't feel good. And the question, I call it confession question for each of the commandments, is what doesn't feel good? And it's so foundational, so powerful in its simplicity. Let go of what doesn't feel good. What doesn't feel good? And I think that gosh, what is it about that? I always think back to when I was a junior in high school, my mom had breast cancer.
Oh.
And it was like one of those days in your childhood where you feel like you grew up instantly. And, 1 minute she was just, oh, it was no big deal. She was going to the hospital. And the next minute it's like your mom has breast cancer, chemo, mastectomy, the whole thing. I had I was going to say a daughter. My sister was 5 years younger than me at the time. So I was the big sister. And I learned life is short. Like it was like a chip was implanted, in my neck. Life is short. And so it just, and I saw how my mom changed afterwards. And it's funny because she started to use the F word, okay. She started to see that the things that I thought were really important, like, watching my kids' language is just really not important in the big scheme of things. And so I think that's what that gave me that low tolerance for not feeling good and had me really trusting that if I admit and I make a change, that good things will happen. Like it will be okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I have literally chills as you say that and I actually have the expression, like the better you feel, the better your life works. You get to have what you want. It's like I train people to like what lights you up. So let's talk about like how you started navigating into this. And let's just say it because some people are like, well, we haven't said it yet. GFR, it's get fucking real, people, right? And I know you just do you call it like GFR? Or do you actually get people? I don't normally use that word, maybe because I have a 9-year-old and I'm just like, woo, but it's like, people are like, what is GFR? So yeah. I just wanted to like kind of clarify it's this why is it like that is really what you emphasize? Like there's got to be something with that language and that phrase that have you found like that's what wakes people up? Or talk more about like what is that drive behind it?
Yes, absolutely. It wakes people up. Yes, absolutely. And I didn't choose it just because of that. I chose it because I like the word. I'm sassy and I'm kind of in your face, but with love. And I knew like in a flash, like 2 years ago when I was craving what is the next iteration of Lisa Cherney in the world, I knew that I was to help people get real. Because for 18 years before that, I'm, mentoring and coaching mission-driven entrepreneurs, and I'm talking about marketing and selling and high ticket and leverage. And always, Michelle, it was, where are they getting in their own way that they're not doing the things that they've invested in to learn, right? The formulas, the blueprints, the systems. And I loved holding space for people in that questioning of like, why are you not doing that thing? Why are you feeling resistance? What's coming up for you? Where do you feel like you're not in your own? Where do you feel like you are in your own way? Where are your fears showing up? Like, I loved that part of it as it related to keeping them from doing the thing, from serving in the way that they wanted to serve. And so, a couple years ago, I was really doing soul searching, and I was looking at what is my favorite ways of holding space for people. And literally these 12 things came through as this is the 12 ways that your clients have been getting in their way. These mission-driven folks, these folks where they're holding their heart out on their sleeve and it's a personal journey. This is how they're getting in their own way. And then I realized I need to help people get real, because I could teach you marketing and sales and give you the most awesome blueprint formula, that you're ever going to see. But in the end, when I ask people, why are you not doing it? They always say, it's me. I know it's me. It's me. I'm getting in my own way. So I felt like I needed to sort of stop the presses and hold space for people, both, in that space of helping them to figure out why are they not doing the things they're supposed to be doing or want to be doing. And so that's how the GFR commandments came about. And then I had to add the confession questions because I had to give people a way, my trainer and coach and me had to give people a way to inquire and explore, which one is the best one for them. So, that's really how it all got started.
Yeah, definitely. And we're, for people who are like, well, what are the commandments? What are the questions? So there's a link right here that you can she's giving this value add to you so that you can have it as well. But how do you start helping someone who's listening and who's saying, oh my God, am I really real? Am I really, doing, my languages? Are you really doing what you were put on this planet to do? Where would you say someone could best start to help uncover if they've numbed themselves out or really not gotten real with themselves?
I would start with GFR commandment number one, and not because it is number one, because there is no order, but it's just such an easy entry one. And so the commandment is don't compromise. And the confession question is, what am I tolerating?
Mm.
And Michelle, somebody asked me that a long time ago, and it just, wow, the floodgates open when I looked at what am I tolerating in my relationships? What am I tolerating in my business? What am I tolerating in my house? What am I tolerating? And just really got real. So if you feel like you might be out of alignment, incongruent, stuck, clogged, I would say, ask that question, what am I tolerating? And it'll get you there. And don't worry, if you just really write and without editing, I don't know, light a candle, do some kind of something that has you be willing to tell yourself the truth, it will be illuminated. And don't worry about knowing what to do about it. That's the thing I found with confessions, Michelle, is people almost don't want to let the thought pause in their brain because they're terrified. I don't know what I'm going to do about this thing. It's okay. You actually don't need to do anything about it for years if you don't want to. But I'll tell you, the first step is just admitting, what am I tolerating?
Absolutely. And just to help people to give yourselves permission to do this and not be scared of it. Many years ago, probably about 15, 16 years ago, I had hired a coach, and that was one of our first sessions. What are you tolerating? And my gut reaction, just off the top of my head, was nothing. And then he was like, yeah, I don't think so. Right. And as I sat with it, right, the next day I was like, everything, it was this awareness of oh my gosh. And that kind of became scary to me. And I want to help people to say, even if that feels scary to you, that it's healthy not to sweep this under the carpet. It is so good to say, okay, great. Step one here. And because you need awareness to say, this isn't working for me and it's okay. And let's maybe talk about once they find a handful of things or whatever it is that they are tolerating. What do we say next? What do you want to say? Putting you right on the spot there. I'll chime in too. But then what do you say?
Well, I say that it is about just maybe even not doing anything with it. That's what's coming to me to share in this moment, is because I think that is intimidating. If you're okay, make a list of what you're tolerating, and then here's what you do next. And people are I don't know if I want to do the first part because I can't do the second part. So I'd say do the first part and just be with it. Maybe come back to it a couple times. Just be willing to be in that space with yourself where you're just telling yourself the truth. Okay, to say the person that you're with in your relationship is not the one that you think you're going to be with for the rest of your life. It's okay just to admit that to yourself, and you don't actually need to do anything about it ever if you don't want to, but there is power in just knowing that, because there may be, that's when I think the miracles show up, right? When you say, okay, I'm admitting this and I'm open. Okay, universe, I'm open to guide me. So that would be the next thing. Okay, there we go. There's the next thing. It's show me, what is the next thing for me to do? And in each of these commandments, there is that getting real. And then there's the, all right, let me surrender. Show me what to do. Or make sure you have somebody in your life that just is great at holding a mirror up and not giving you advice.
Yes. And, just to add on that, where it's every time I've seen anything that I don't want, my clients don't want in their life, it's celebrate it. You created that. And this gives you the indication now of what it is that you really do want. So many people, I find, it's when they get clear and honest of what they don't want, then it's the polar opposite of what they do want, right? So it helps you to discern what it is that you want. And then we work in alignment with the laws, because the universe can't pick up on, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. It's okay, great. Let's take the opposite in most cases, right? What is it that you do want, and set this up as the outcomes, the missions, the goals, right? It's just a beautiful example of when, and that's exactly what happened. All these things that I was tolerating, it was oh, I didn't want this. I didn't want this because I was focusing on what I didn't want, and I was creating it. Great. I'm a great creator. Now let's put the attention on where we're going, what it is that I want, and, massively move forward on that. So I love that. And I know you're all about creating that clarity. You've even been called the queen clarity. So how did it come that GFR and like the queen of clarity?
I called myself Queen of Clarity. Let's get real.
Okay.
We just all give ourselves our own expert title. So don't feel like,
Totally.
someone dubbed me that, right? So I decided to own the Queen of Clarity because that is my number one objective and my number one heat-seeking missile when I talk with people is to get them to a place of clarity. And so much of that is admitting, confessing what isn't working, what doesn't feel good. And oftentimes people walk away from conversations with me or even from listening to my podcast with, okay, I see something I didn't see before. And sometimes people are like, okay, that's about all I can really handle. Like, thank you for that, huge illumination or that piece of clarity. And I need to sort of be with it. I need to sit with it for a minute because, it is very illuminating when something just sort of clicks and you see something in a way that you didn't see before. So, I mean, that's my show is about telling people stories of where they didn't feel good and terrible things, looks like terrible things are happening to them, and then how it all was on purpose. So, I have a real big passion for, like you said, for saying it's great that happened to you. Now let's see what's on the other side.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then, hopefully you've downloaded the GFR commandments here, but the one that really stood out for me, Lisa, is number 5. Tell us more about number 5.
Yeah. Make yourself your most important client. Make yourself your most important client is number 5 is the heart of it, I think, because us as what does mission driven mean? Mission driven means that you, in my experience, something happened to you, you had an experience, and you now want to help other people to not experience what you experienced or somehow have them have the same experience you did. Like you have something bubbling up inside you in a way that you want to serve people, the way that you want to support people, help people. That's mission driven. And when you're driven that way, you want to make money, but that's not the driver. It really is, I freaking want to help people, except if you're mission driven, what I find, Michelle, is you also need to help yourself along the way. You can't just heal yourself from diabetes with natural modalities and then say, I want to help people with that. And then along the way, start to neglect your own health, right? So you need to make yourself your most important client. It doesn't need to be a constant thing, but I find when a mission driven person is struggling, they feel lost, right? They're confused. They don't have clarity, the opposite of clarity. I often find that they need to do their own work in some way. And sometimes it's up-leveling their own work. And they're embarrassed to admit it because they are struggling in the area that they're supposed to be an expert in. But if I say, make yourself your most important client, and then I add the confession question, which is, if I was my own client, what would I tell myself? And what else would I tell myself? And what else? It's fascinating how quickly they'd say, oh, I would tell myself I need to take a break and I need to go on a retreat. I would tell myself I need a massage. I would tell myself to stop doing that thing I don't like. And I would tell myself that I need to do this to energize myself. And I tell myself to take a nap. If they really got real about it, they stop resisting the obvious things that they know they need to do by making themselves their most important client.
Lisa, I love this and I love your energy. So tell me about the benefits of being unapologetic and what you really call GFR. What have you seen transform in people's lives and in your own life?
I think there's 3 main things that I've seen the most when people confess, when people GFR. They actually get clarity. So when they make themselves their most important client, or when they decide not to compromise and inquire about what they're tolerating, they actually get clarity. The answers come, like the clouds part, the pipe gets unclogged. So that is the number one benefit, is that they get clarity. The next benefit is that their confidence increases. And let's get real here. Our insecurities are at the core of really many of our fears and many of the reasons why we are slowed down at all in reaching our goals is where we are not self-confident. And I find a direct relationship between being willing to get real, be unapologetic. You can use the GFR commandments and those confession questions as a roadmap just to explore all the different places this may show up for you. And I have Here's a great example. I have a community called the GFR Squad. It's a paid low, like $20 a month, paid membership community. You have some skin in the game. And confessions and GFRing is the culture. And I mean, just the other day, I saw one of our members started a YouTube channel talking about this cool like approach he has to sexuality. And he was hiding that for so long. And now he's telling me he's doing these YouTube videos and he's out there. And it's like, it's because he confessed that he was scared to do that. It's because he confessed that he was embarrassed, that he was confessed that he was afraid there would be backlash, right? All of these things. And that gave him confidence. Just being real gave him confidence. So benefit number 1, clarity. Benefit number 2, confidence. And here's a really fun one, Michelle. I think it's the antidote to imposter syndrome. And I'll define imposter syndrome as that they're gonna find me out thing, or the who do I think I am kind of thing, right? That and that we all have. I've never met anybody that doesn't have this. I don't know what it is, but we have this thing like we're going to be found out as a fraud that we are, or something like that. And I find that the more that we're willing to be vulnerable and real, which I feel like I'm really good at this, if it could be a skill, I have it. I feel like I don't have that imposter. I don't worry people are going to find me out because they found me. Like I'm outing myself.
This is it. This is all that you get. You're not going to find out anymore. I agree with that.
Yeah. Like one of my first episode on my show, Michelle, it's so funny. It's called Who the F is Lisa Cherney? And in that episode, I talk about how I'm lazy and don't have a marketing degree and I'm not a certified coach. And I'm a really crappy speller. And I just go on and on about all these things that somebody else might be embarrassed about or that I was ashamed about maybe at some point. And I felt like I needed to hide. And it's just, so that just gives me, now I don't have imposter syndrome because I'm not trying to be, somebody who's like a big certified, coach. I love people who are certified coaches. I don't hold it against them, but I don't have to be, right. I don't have to have that insecurity or that worry. So those are the 3 benefits: clarity, confidence, and the antidote to imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's really huge. And it's so interesting. It's like, all right, I got the degree, but it's this, oh my gosh, like I haven't even used it, right? Like you just learn because your intuition and your guidance guide you to really what's most, I believe, optimal and you're present versus you're scripted, right? So I love that. What I'm really hearing is the present energy, and you're not scripted, and there's no part of you that's kind of like the skeletons in the closet part, because I think that's what people get really freaked out about. And I'll even say, like, I'm a business coach, but I help my clients to get so transparent and so authentic so they don't feel like, oh, like suppose they find this out. It's like whatever that you think they're going to find out, let's shout it from the mountaintops, right? Like let's get you past your issues with it so you can be free yourself. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And here's the one thing I want to talk about, because this is what I've bumped up against many times with people, is I love it when people get real. And your beingness matters, because getting really real or getting GFR, right? But if you're doing it from anger, or if you're doing it from resentments, and then all of a sudden it's like that straw that breaks the camel's back and you're lashing out, that's not really the right approach. But I would love to hear your point of view on people getting real and the way that they do it, especially with others.
I mean, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is like, can you be too real? Like, is there too much, or are there things that, you should hide, kind of thing. And so I think it speaks to your how question, and depending on your mission, I think there's things that are very appropriate for you to be real about, right? Especially if it's, those are the things that you went through and now you're helping other people. But there's always seems to be another level. So I would like inquire, like, can I be more real? So when people come on my show, the Get Fucking Real show,
yeah,
they don't talk about their expertise. They talk about the grittiness of the story and the struggle that they went through that then was completely on purpose to what they're doing now with their business, right? So like, somebody who had bankruptcy and tons of debt now helps people to get out of debt and, be real with their money. I have millions of stories of this. And I think that when when people can really be honest about that is where that miracle happens, and to be clear about what's most relevant. And so like I was working with a gal who intimacy was her expertise, and she shared that, you know, she had some challenges with that, and now she helps other couples that have a challenge in intimacy. Well, when we started to really work together, I said, how did you get into this? And she said, well, it really was because my husband had an affair. And that woke me up because I couldn't even believe that could even happen. And so then I like got a PhD in sexuality, and now I want to help people with this. And like, that was huge for her to share that level of vulnerability. And now I've been working with her for a few years. And the more she shares of her own personal story and struggles, the more success she has, the more attractive she is to potential clients. So I would see like, where can you be even more real? Like, what parts of your story do you gloss over? And, you know, people come on my show, I said, I don't want to hear the rehearsed story. I want to hear more detail. And I'd love it if you'd be willing to share some things that you haven't shared before.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I so get that. And, you know, it's like even crazy 2007, 8, when that whole thing happened, you know, my husband and I, like, we were just ridiculously stupid with money back then. And there was, I mean, we just had like this huge mortgage and like condos and all this stuff. And I mean, we not only did we go under it, we never declared bankruptcy, but like it sent us like in this crazy turnaround. And it's exactly what you were saying. And we went from this like 6-bedroom, gorgeous, beautiful, custom built house to a 2-bedroom condo. And it was like, oh, okay, there goes my ego out the window right now. And just like, hey, we were stupid with money. We got, you know, caught, you know, in the ridiculousness of everything that happened back then. And it was so freeing to be so transparent. And then people were telling me like, don't think I'm doing so well right now, or, you know, the real stories that were going on. And it was very freeing. No, there's something though, and it's maybe a little bit different of a question. It's this someone who's not been real, not been real, not been real, but then all of a sudden it's like they lash out from a frustration or a way of being that is harsh, or, you know, making other people wrong type of energy. And I was just wondering, like, if, you know, what you might say to help people to come out in a graceful, loving, respectful way versus, you know, stuff that's been buried inside of people. Sometimes when it comes out, it's not very pretty, has been my experience.
Yeah, I think we need to be mindful about the energetic associated with the thing that we want to talk about. And if there's still a lot of charge around it, I recommend not sharing it quite yet.
Yes.
And, you know, what's been fun for me to see is coming to a place where I'm being super vulnerable. And this probably, I would say even more like 8 years ago, I started like sharing, like I was in a 12-step program when I was in my 20s and 30s for food. And, you know, like, you know, and I have a really unique way of parenting, and I don't tell my kid when to go to sleep. What, you know, like, and just like sharing things that have always been like kind of coming current. And now I feel like I'm more real time. I'm able to be, you know, a few weeks or depending on the thing, you know, more real time. But I would just really be mindful. Like if it still doesn't feel healed or there's still a lot of charge around it, just talk about it with a therapist, talk about it with your coach, talk about it with your spouse, you know, till you really, really get, you know, the lesson and like, you know, what that meant for you and the significance of it, so that you could share it in a way where you, like, I think that people say to me, oh, I love your energy. And I think part of what people get from me is just that I feel at my peace with a lot of the things that I'm sharing about. Yes. So that's what I would say.
Definitely. And I just really want to emphasize that point, that because, you know, through the years, I've heard people, well, I'm just speaking my truth. I'm like, you're yelling, screaming, and ranting and raving. And I'm like, that is an ego-based story you're telling yourself. Like, you know, I do agree with you. Like there's this, you know, when you can come from love and you can come from, okay, this is what's been going on inside of me. And you know what? I don't want to keep it in the shadows any longer. And you can come from please receive this in love. And I just want to increase, you know, the love or the relationship and make it better. But yeah, the way people share, I do agree, is the difference of you being heard or you being judged. So to share from love and to share from, it's about you. You know, because some people I know, and I've seen it, like times truth is confronting, and it's you want to have a gentle spirit, I believe, when there's another person involved.
Yeah. And I think to some extent we need to let go of what the reaction will be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I can't really worry that someone's going to judge me. Like as much as like I need to be as okay as I possibly can that somebody may have an opinion and that's okay.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But I think I'm just thinking it's like, oh, someone like decides to like write a book and it's like all these people from the past. It's like, you might want to give them heads up and be like, I think it's just you're on the planet here with other people. And, the more that we can create win-wins and just not make it all about us or what's going on. And then it's like, okay, I'm just being real now, right? It's like, hey, you might get some pretty...
Yeah, using that as like sort of a weapon or excuse to be obnoxious. Not good.
And I don't think you get to hide behind that. I really don't. Yeah. Right. You've created this experience. This is so great, honey, though. And I love it. And I love that you've put together, multiple commandments and questions that people can ask themselves. So they're so excited. What else do we want to like maybe just leave the audience with here today?
I think this is a really good one for this unprecedented time that we're living in right now. So commandment number 8 is know that sometimes stopping is the most lucrative action to take. And that confession question is, where do I need to pause or stop, but haven't because of fear? And it's, I just want to exhale every time I read that one, permission to stop. Wow. And of course, we're all being invited to stop. And so how do we take, how are we being called to evolve in this sort of stopping and permission that's been given to us? And as an entrepreneur, we just tend to think like stopping means money goes away, clients goes away. And in my very extensive 20 years experience, that is not what happens. And so, I would love to ask the audience to just check in, like, where do you need to pause or stop, but you haven't because of fear? And if it's being imposed on you, where can you surrender and really get the wisdom of this stopping?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to tie this all into kind of miracles and millions, what has been your experience as you've tuned in, you've gotten so real, GFR, that, you told me that it's where, more miracles and really it's like more successes come from you.
Yes. And my definition of success has changed. So, I got the t-shirt of the $1 Million Business, and I don't have that same goal anymore from a monetary standpoint. And I probably will get there anyway, but it's just not my focus.
Yeah.
My focus is how much freaking fun, how good could this possibly feel? And that to me is the bigger accomplishment. And that's what I hold space for people that I work more closely with is, and I know you do the same thing. We're on the same missions. Like, how good could this possibly feel? So that's the miracle. Like, the miracle is when I don't freaking stress out over the next Zoom call, and I don't completely second guess myself over this thing I said. And I'm not, beating myself up over this interview and, oh my God, I should have done this and that's that's the miracle. Those are the miracles of just doing my thing and enjoying myself. It's a miracle.
Right. It's the present moment. That's all we get to have. So honey, that's so beautiful. Again, just getting to meet you multiple times in person. And now, of course, our time here, there is this fun energy. You get to enjoy the journey, and it's been such a pleasure. So thank you. And everyone, definitely make sure you download the 12 GFR commandments and go through them yourself, because it'll be an amazing thing for you to get more clarity, as we've said, gain more confidence, get rid of imposter syndrome, get GFR. Lisa Cherney, girlfriend, great seeing you, great having you.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Be a part of the conversation on Facebook and become a Miracles and Millions manifester at michellehumphrey.com/connect. Let's play together, because living miracle-minded is the gift you give yourself that has a massive impact on others and paves the way to make you millions. Your time is now.